Well, good morning and welcome to this program. We have a very esteemed panel of guests to talk about this. First, we have Dr. Anu.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us on this program. Then we have Dr. Pallavi Rao. Thank you for joining us on this program. You are the technical head of Cryobank. And also we have Mr. Ambar Rao, the CEO of Cryobank. Thank you for joining us on this program. And finally, we have a very well-known doctor in this field, Dr. Kamini Rao. Well, Dr. Kamini Rao, first let me ask you, this entire mental kind of situation also can do it. There's not only physical issue. Let's say someone is prone to depression, someone is, even, let me ask you, what kind of people come to you? Because you are in the business of saving it for the future. You're like a bank.
We are a bank
You are a
in
bank,
the real
okay.
sense, and ours is purely a referral center.
Okay.
So the deciding is done by the clinicians.
Okay.
We just freeze it as and when against prescription. But going by the trends in the last couple of years,
What
Right.
kind of people come to you?
we have two divisions. One is for self-use, auto-conservation. The other is the donors, the donors from banking.
Okay, we won't talk about the donors. We'll talk about this bit.
Okay, so coming to this, the incidence of young males opting for this is on the rise.
Okay, for
Yeah.
the reasons of?
I guess directly because of the incidence of cancer increasing, and we have had
Is
people.
it always medically driven, the reasoning?
At least the references what we get, the clients walking into our center
Okay.
are all. We don't take up clients directly from the society. It has to come through a doctor's reference.
Okay, when someone comes to you, let's say someone is a young-looking kid
Yeah.
in his 20s and seems to be very, pepped up about this thing of saving it for the future. Do you ask him some basic questions? Why are you doing it?
So typically when it comes to auto conservation for own self-use, then we send him back to a good doctor to, because it is a referral center. But
Okay.
if he comes in as a donor,
Okay.
then yes, we have a certain inclusion and exclusion criteria. We follow that. Based on that, we either include him into the program or exclude him.
Okay.
So this is but typically, yes, we refer them back to the doctors or tell them whoever is their family doctor, family physician. We ask them to go back to them, discuss as to why they want to go about it. And then if it is a medically, recommended, yes, we go ahead and then we offer the services.
Dr. Pallavi, now when people come to you, I'm sure you would have your own, way of dealing with them. How do you deal with them? Let's say.
Basically, when the patient or the donor comes,
Okay.
we have a questionnaire for them as to what their concern is, why
Okay.
they want to go ahead with the services or what we provide.
Okay.
And then, if it's a donor, then we look for their seminal parameters like
Okay.
the count, motility, morphology. And also, we have certain other parameters.
For example, a healthy male is supposed to have a certain level of.
Yeah, one is the age criteria. They have to be 18 and above, 18, between the age of 18 to 45. Secondly, they should be educated. That is, they should have a minimum college level education. And they should also be passed through a urologist. That is, a thorough physical examination is done on them to see if they're physically fit enough, and then they're enrolled into the program.
It's actually a world of. It's a world which is still not. People are not so used to it. It's a world where people are still coming to terms with what all that you're
I
saying.
think, with what they've said, Damodar said, I think, even people who come to is very important.
Just to add on to this, many a times the challenge what we have when patients, especially the young males diagnosed with cancer, they have been diagnosed at a stage when they have to immediately start chemotherapy.
Okay.
And they come with us and say, like, my chemo is going to start from tomorrow. Can you do something about it today? How many vials can you freeze? And stuff like that. So we
You
are
have cases
also.
like that?
Oh, plenty of such cases.
Tell us about them, if you have.
We have had several such cases where chemotherapy was to begin in the very next day, and they have landed us at our center in the evening. I think, Pallavi, you can take this forward.
Yeah, see, on an average in a month, we get at least about 10 to 15 such cases where they're diagnosed with cancer. They come to us to auto-conserve or cryopreserve their sperms. And they say, look, tomorrow my treatment is starting, so can you just preserve whatever is available, whatever stock we have, I'll just give it, and can you please cryopreserve it. And
Also, doctor, I want to ask you, for a person who's going in for this cryopreservation, And for
woman is not married at the age of 39 for whatever reason, not having
Doctor,
had
I want to ask you, have you had an instance of a person saving and then that person is no more?
See, most of the patients don't come back to us for about, they are dormant in the sense they don't interact with us for about 2 to 4 years or 5 years. So we still keep the sample thinking that they'll come back and they might have a need at any point of time. But we always take a declaration from them telling that if they are no more.
Have you had such an instance?
We have had such an
We've
instance.
had.
The oldest case of autoconservation of sperms
Yeah,
was...
can you tell us about it medically? What was it like?
See, I can't name the patient,
Yeah,
but
let's not name the patient.
it's more of a malignant testicular cancer where his count was very low, but still he said that, why don't you please preserve it because I might need it for some time. But later his wife comes back and says that he's no more, can you please discard the sample?
They didn't
Why-
go...
Why didn't she go out and,
The father is no more, so she might have other options of, I don't know, because so then we referred her back to the referring doctor.
Referring doctor.
Okay, can you say that again? A couple
A couple
come to you, husband going through testicular cancer. He saves the sperms, and the wife comes back a year later,
I think
A couple of years.
Couple of
later.
years.
couple of years, 2 years later, and then she says, please discard it. She doesn't want to be. So the whole
Conceive.
purpose is defeated.
It would have served had he survived, perhaps. This was just as a backup option. See, you need to...
Correct. As a
you-
backup
as a
option, it
backup-
has served no purpose.
No, I don't think so. I think when you are actually storing the sample,
Okay.
you're not storing the sample that I will go and get inseminated even if the partner dies. Now you would like the partner to be alive, but the fact is that
for
the
most traditional
chemotherapy...
Indians, that is almost the unsaid principle.
Yeah.
What you're saying is the unsaid principle. Everybody for, any Indian. I
No,
think,
but I'll tell you one more thing, because the sperms...
to bring in this fresh rider that if he is alive,
No,
would
but
be-
if he actually dies, who does the sperms belong to is also a column that we add.
Okay.
So in case of death,
Okay.
does he still want to go ahead with the procreation with his sperms after his death?
Okay, I want to ask you.
Social stigma attached to it that, she's raising a child without the father. She's answerable
Oh,
to
whose
the
child is it?
society. Yes.
And you're denying the child the right of fatherhood.
Fatherhood.
Correct. So see.
So there is a lot of complexity in this.
Let's look at it logically. The man comes to you, asking you to save because there is a good chance that he might not be reproductive, or there is the other extreme chance that he might not even be alive. So one part of it is defeated.
Yes, to an extent, you're right. Your point of view is right. But then again, there are a lot of... It's a very complex situation. Does this man's spouse, his wife, should really go through with the same, the ex-husband's sperm for conceiving and delivering a baby?
Or can
If
she
she
look for a
gets
fresh
married to
husband?
another person,
Okay.
is that person going to accept this kind of a situation? And the biological father of the child is somebody else. So you're denying the right of fatherhood, perhaps. It's a whole complex kind of a situation. We have to analyze it in total.
Very challenging field.
Very
that you're in.
challenging, yes.
Anything extraordinary, anything very interesting in your field that you would like to tell our viewers?
We have had a case where sterilization of the husband, they came to us and then he has had 3 children.
He's had 3 children.
He's had 3 children,
Okay.
but we have had several such cases. He says, I want to go in for this. Do you mind storing my sperms?
For what?
He says, what if something happens to my child in the future and I am not able to reproduce and I would have lost this option forever? So,
What if something happens to the child?
to the child.
So they take this as an insurance.
Biological.
Biological insurance.
And it works sometimes?
Well, touch wood, thank God nothing of that sort has happened so far, but it should work. We have had the oldest conception was a sperm which was frozen in our center about 15 years back. We are operational for about 17 years. 15 years back, whatever has been frozen has led to a very successful pregnancy and take-home baby.
What is take-home baby?
Take-home baby means you've got a woman who's pregnant,
Okay.
but till the baby comes in your hand and you
Okay.
take this baby home,
Okay.
the success is still not there.
Okay.
So
So
you
there is
can
a chance
see-
of losing
It's somewhere along the way.
along the way. What are the chances there for cryo babies?
No, I think this should be good. Once they've crossed through the
So because
period
you're
of
stressing on the
heartbeat-
fact of a take-home baby, I'm asking you this question.
No, it's in an IVF pregnancy. Now, many of them will have the implantation and then they have the first beta HCG, which suggests that she's pregnant.
She's carrying
so if it means that you've got the first positive, it doesn't necessarily mean that she'll carry this baby home. So if you've got a success rate of over 50% for an IVF, which is the norm today, that your carry-home baby rate may be 30%. So 20% somewhere along the line, you lose them.
Okay.
So the take-home baby rate is going to be less than your IVF success rate. So the take-home baby rate will be your
Okay,
gold
doctor,
standard.
anything you want to tell us, because we are in the last part of our program.
We have
Anything-
another very interesting case.
And some of the interesting cases.
yeah,
that-
very
and your
recently,
tips
I had
to-
a
tips
very
to our viewers, that's all.
we had a young college student who walks into our center and says,
Age about teens?
well, I think he was in his early 20s.
Early 20s.
Early 20s, just doing his baby, and he says, I want to get my sperms frozen. I said, do you want to be a donor? Because I took him to be a donor. And he says, no, I want it for my own use. And I said, where is the prescription? I mean, unless you are prescribing. He says, no, I have no prescription. And I said, why do you want to do it? He says, I want to live my life. I want to go on a drinking binge.
So indulge himself.
And
yeah.
I don't want all these things to affect my sperm count. So as a precaution, I want to do it.
Okay.
So these are some of the cases which come, very peculiar cases, and we immediately referred them to some of the doctors or his family physician, and then we asked them to undergo a counseling.
Okay.
Without a reference for auto conservation, as a principle, we don't take up cases.
Okay. Now we are in the very last part of our program. So if you can sum up and give a tip to our viewer, anything you would like to say?
I think